very much,
Hey,
Scott.
thanks, Scott.
Hello, Steve.
Hello, Jamie. Happy
I
Monday.
hope, yes, happy Monday. I hope everybody out there that's tuned in had a nice, relaxing weekend. And welcome back to this thing that we call the market. Happy Monday. So I guess real quick here, we probably should get a little legal out of the way here. Just want to make sure everybody is aware that we are not soliciting anyone to buy or sell anything. We're not a registered investment advisor or broker-dealer or anything of that nature. So please don't misconstrue the information that we share with you here today as a buy or sell solicitation. We are doing this for your educational benefit. All right, so got a couple cool things to share with you guys today. First, we're just going to talk about where the market is again, since we're in this tumultuous zone down here, whether we're going to bust up to get out of these doldrums or cycle back down into the range and keep on trading in the meat grinder environment. And then, of course, we're always going to talk about Holly and how she did for the day. And then I've got a pretty interesting topic to share with you guys. You know, I just kind of entitled it Micro Mining a Top List. And without getting into too much detail, what we're going to talk about is, you know, whereas trade ideas as a whole, we take that big ominous data source called the market, the NASDAQ, the NYSE, and we take that big, you know, nebulous ball of nothingness and we parse it out in a way and let you guys parse it out in a way that actually makes sense to you and your trading styles. So while we can do that on the macro level, we can also do it within TI on the micro level. So I've got a pretty good example that I think will resonate well with everyone. Okay, so let's just move on to some interesting stuff here. And of course, I had to move my software, so pardon me for a second. And once again, just so everybody knows what they're looking at here, always going to have the 5-minute intraday chart over here on the right and a nice daily over here on the left. So Steve, you can see here on this SPY chart that I get pulled up here, I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost going to complete the W pattern, right? Assuming we pop, maybe tomorrow we pop up to this little wick here. Maybe we bust through, or maybe we cycle back down. But, you know, looking at this thing that's kind of forming here, what are your thoughts?
Well, one thing you're not seeing, there is a 50-day moving average that is stopped us dead in our tracks here on the SPY, which also corresponds to that kind of that level from 2 weeks ago that we just kind of poked our head above there, creating that W look. What concerns me a little bit is the amount of volume I noticed in spiders today. I think it finished the day on about half of its normal average volume. When you're bouncing up into the pocket, into a trend or into a downward sloping 50-day moving average like we have right here at these resistance levels as well, it would be a little bit more confirming, consoling to see higher volume as we hit these levels. So I think we may be kind of hitting a little wall here, and we may just pitch back and forth and try and consolidate over time, and then maybe make another attempt to move through the highs of today, which, like I said, we're at a declining 50-day moving average. Gapping up is never easy. I mean, look at this market the last 5 or 6 days. You know, Holly does not have the benefit of waking up with a green blotter on the last 5 or 6 days there, Jamie, on the spiders. Every single day was a gap up and go, gap up and go, gap up and go. You know, Holly has to start the day at zero, where, you know, swing traders and other traders holding overnight risk and positions are really getting rewarded for their risk. But I do think it was notable to see the decline in volume as we kind of hit up some upside resistance in price and in some moving average areas. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of back and forth noshing action down here at these levels, maybe trying to build a base camp for a push higher. If not, you know, I'm not going to predict the market. We could go either way here, but we are definitely at an inflection point, it looks like, in the spiders today, and doing it on lower than normal volume. So that's a bit of a red flag for the bulls. There's not a whole lot of conviction here at the moment.
Yeah,
at this level anyway.
And by the way, here's the intraday, and this is post-market right here. So look what the spiders are doing currently as we speak, post-market.
Interesting.
So, you know, that's some interesting tidbit right there. Of course, things can change dramatically overnight, as we all know. But yeah, this gappiness is just crazy. And then if we look back here, even these areas, I mean, You know, that's
I'll tell you what, I've been trading
that's
the
typically
market.
what a thinly traded stock looks like, not the SPY.
Well, I was just going to say it looks like a damn ADR. It looks like a foreign
Mm-hmm.
stock, you know, like a
Mm-hmm.
Chinese stock that trades on a Chinese market with an ADR over here. I've never
Right.
seen a market like this. I've never seen our U.S. markets, let me rephrase that. I've never seen our U.S. markets behave like this. And it's been going on for years. It's nothing new. We're in a new age of globalization, and things happen overnight, whether it's moves in gold or central bankers making moves that just don't happen during the day anymore, where we used to get most of our moves in the New York was considered, you know, the market of the world. But now there's a lot of stuff happening overnight where this is just the way it is these days. And if you're a swing trader, all you can really do to combat the overnight risk is, you know, not play as heavily as you normally would. But if you're going to be a swing trader, you still have to take risk overnight. You just got to be aware that, you know, the market is not closing at 4 o'clock Eastern time anymore. It's a 24-hour deal, and that's what we've got.
That is correct. All right. Well, so let's, I've got Holly's blotter pulled up today and the strategy list as well. Before we kind of dig in to see what was produced here today, just want to give everybody a quick peep at the ongoing chart that we're tracking, Holly against the S&P. So we can see the last, the last 5 sessions up, not a whole lot, but up nonetheless. So looks kind of like we put in our bottom here. Hopefully we're going to trend back up here and broaden that gap between us and the SPY, which is the goal. Nothing special as of yet. We got 4 more days in the week left, just Monday, so who knows what's going to happen. Since we are in this precarious area here, then it wasn't really a big shocker to see Holly today after a total of, let's see, 4, 6, 13, right about 18 trades.
Right.
And after those 18 trades, only up 85 cents or a little over 12 basis points. Sorry about that, everyone. Just had a little noise pollution come by. I had to take care of there. But in any case, kind of an interesting mixed bag here. We had 3 longs, 3 shorts. Now, if we sort these guys by by the best performing on the back test, it just so happened to be today that those were the top performing strategies. Can't say there's any rhyme or reason to that. Sometimes it's not like that. Today it just happened to work out like that. So we can see the most productive strategy today was the fade, the 52-week high for 7 trades and about $1.50, a little over $1.50, $1.52. And then one of our other favorites is the float on, which looks at the smaller float stocks. So on 4 trades, looked like it kicked out about 62 cents. And then our friend down here, the Sunrise Movers, 5 trades, down $1.40 today. So this one is a long strategy, of course. It tends to start a little bit earlier, but as we can see, today it didn't do well. So we can kind of compound that information that we were just talking about as far as where we are in the market and what the spiders are doing after the market. And that's kind of the beauty of the things is sometimes when we're looking at things in different pieces, all of a sudden we put a few pieces together and that can give us a little bit of peek into the future. Of course, as I said earlier, things can change dramatically overnight. So here we are looking at the entire trade blotter here, and we can sort by time or strategy. So if we just kind of look at the closed, there's just slightly more profit than there was lost today, and of course most of that was coming from the long side. Of course, that column that we added not too long ago.
Yeah.
The non-exit profit, Steve, check that out.
Yeah, take note there of the ones that didn't work, and that's where you really see the benefit of Holly's risk management coming into play. You recall you'll see a column called Smart Stops. Well, that's a stop that's configured for each stock by the AI window engine, taking into consideration the daily volatility, the daily range, near-term resistance, near-term support, a lot of different filters going on behind the scenes to derive that smart stop. And so on those losing trades this morning, the smart stops were enabled early and saved a lot of headache by looking at that non-exit P&L down there at the bottom. And there's another $2.50, $3, $4 that continue to go against that particular direction, and directional trade. And so this is where you can really start to see the risk management come into play, as well as, when you want to wear your trader hat on the flip side and let some of these profits run. There was still some run in some of these things, and again, to remind you all, Holly is a gray box. The real genius and beauty in this is the trade selection and trade ideas coming to you. Once the stock is initiated and taken on your end, it really is up to you, wearing your own trader's hat, to decide when it is you'd like to make your exit. Now, there are some planned exits on there, because at the end of the day, Holly does have to go home flat, and so there has to be some sort of a timed stop, or a timed or a profit target, or a smart stop. So one of those three things is going to get the AI system out of the trade. But if you're a seasoned trader and you've got a good eye and you trust your eye and you see a daily chart that looks like there could be some more run in it, just because Holly's exiting it in 3 or 4 hours doesn't mean you have to as well. So you got to keep your trader hat on with this system and know that this is an idea generating platform, but it's not designed to have to be, black or white and do exactly everything she's doing. We do that all the time. We override her all the time. We talk about trade arounds, or even double dipping in a trade, or holding on to it overnight because it looks good to us. So you're ultimately the final judgment of, to when you want to exit these things. These are just recommendations based on a system that has to exit during the day.
Yeah, and Steve, the interesting thing to kind of take note of is, it's clearly obvious here, the risk management on these longs, or the ones that really got stopped out quick, really did benefit us. Like 25 versus 62, 26 versus 44, saved a little bit on that one, saved 40 something cents on that one, and then saved you another $2 on that one, right? So the risk management really helped, and on the profitable trades, the time stops really didn't leave that much on the table. 18 versus 25, 19 and 19, left 18 cents on the table there, saved 9 cents, left a little bit over a quarter there. These two were the biggest ones, it looks like. Other than that, it didn't leave too much on the table, but it saved you a whole lot, right?
Exactly. And there's another observation here. I think it's important, just to touch on it briefly. When we came into today, we talked about it earlier, we had another gap up, yet another gap up, which doesn't allow for a whole lot of between the bells opportunity. So when I see Sunrise Mover, knowing that it is a strategy that likes to come out of the blocks and do an early trade to the long side after we've already gapped up a bit, that's my trader hat is putting on a little bit of caution there for that particular strategy, and maybe not giving that one as much weight.
Absolutely. So that's what went on with Holly today, and we'll see the story continues tomorrow. All right, so now we're going to talk about something completely different, and it should resonate with some of you. Well, if this is your first time attending a webinar, then you're in for a treat. And for those of you who are familiar with the trend change lubricant top list, then you also are in for a treat. So it's a win-win. So let me show you this. Now, what you're seeing right here, these charts are pretty much in my layout all the time, but all of these windows down here are completely different than what is typically in my default layout. And I created this for today because I've been working on it for, I don't know, few days off and on, but kind of found something today with what I think is a very interesting correlation. So the trend change lubricant. Steve, you want to jump in here and kind of give these guys a little bit of flavor for,
I do.
for the people, that have never seen it before.
Without going into too much detail on all the filters and settings, here's what it's basically looking for. And this has been a setting that's been working for generating a lot of the trade ideas of the week for people who are on the email of trade of the week. We had a good one this week, in my opinion. But the way these filters are set up, there's two different ranges to consider here. One is the 52-week range, or the time frame. And the way it's set up for these is it's got to be in the lower 35 percentile, can't be higher. So it's basically looking at stocks over the course of 52 weeks. It has to be in its lower 1/3 range. And then on top of that, we add a second range, which is a trailing 20-day range. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. The filters have to have the stock above the prior day's close by a certain percentage or fraction of a percentage. And if you took the 20-day trailing range, it has to be at the 99th percentile. So literally knocking on the ceiling of a 20-day high after being down here and not being able to make new lows. I think it's an interesting setup. It's been generating a lot of interesting setups, for lack of a better description. And what it's basically doing is looking for stocks that are getting tired to the downside and cannot make new lows, maybe a nice rounding bottom or some flattening out with a range, anticipating, and that's the key word here, anticipating a move to the upside. And on these particular ones, Jamie has also added the short float, which we've talked a lot about in the last few weeks. And if you can find some of these that have a nice short float contingency in there where the shorts may be getting nervous as the price action's not following through the way they want, you know, sometimes it doesn't take much to tender off an explosion of a short squeeze. And we've actually got a couple of stocks we'll look at individually here, but that's the gist of the trend change lubricant. You know, looking at a stock for 1 year, it's going to be in the lower 1/3 of its range, but the last 20 days, it's been looking to break back out after some basing and stuff like that. There's a few other filters in there that have some sweetness to it, but for the most part, that's what these trend changes are looking for.
Right. And so if I start clicking on these stocks, you'll notice that on the long term, these are all looking the same, right? So on the long term, they're all looking, you know, the same. Some are going to be a little bit prettier than others. But the bottom line is that trend is starting to change, just as Steve said. And of course, we throw a little extra flavor in there, a little extra spice called the short float that can really help us identify the big movers and things of that nature. So that's what we like to see as traders. So the thing about the top list, and once again, we've been watching this for months and months and months, and it just seems to keep on keeping on. Now, having said that, the thing about a top list is it updates every 30 seconds. So, you know, 20 minutes into the open, it could look completely different than it did in the first 5 minutes. And as the day progresses, maybe some stocks drop off, drop back on, but the top list is constantly updating. So, you know, I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, there's a lot of good stuff in that top list. Now, even I get a little bit overwhelmed sometimes. So I'm like, how could I probably simplify this, or how could I really take this list and really dig down into it and find out maybe a different way, a different slant to put on it that could keep me apprised of things that are really going to have the potential of making some above average moves to the upside or the downside. And so I'm going to show you guys a little process that's relatively simple once you get it down, but just as with anything, you know, we've got a lot of good data here, so I'm going to drill down further into that data and show you what I created. So what I did in the beginning is I started looking through the entire history of everything that had been produced via this list today. And as I kept looking and looking and looking, what I eventually arrived at, the conclusion I arrived at is, okay, here's what I should do. All stocks that show up on this list in the first 5 minutes, that's what I want to pay attention to. And of course, without boring you with all the details of how I got to that assumption, it was basically just digging and digging through the history and looking at spreadsheets. Pretty boring stuff, but that was the result that I came up with. So it's real easy to pull one of these. Right now, this window's in real time, but if we right-click, go to time frame, and then say set historical date, if I say 6:30 a.m. my time, then it's going to show me the time slice of 6:30 to 6:35. So here's what the list looked like 5 minutes into the first 5 minutes of today's market. Now, what I did, and any of you can do this as well, at first I didn't know how many symbols were on there. I could stretch this out and scroll to the bottom. Not too many to deal with, so that's a good sign. So all we do is we right-click and we say Save Contents, and this will save it in spreadsheet, Excel format, or if you use OpenOffice, ODL. So easy enough there. And so when I opened that spreadsheet up, I had 34 symbols in there. So I proceeded to create a custom list, and just to refresh everybody's memory on how to do that, very easy. We go to Tools, we go to Symbol List, we create a new list, and then we populate it. So here is the list that I created for the first 5 minutes today. These are all the stocks right here, and you'll notice they're not these, you know, they're very liquid stocks, very recognizable names, most of these. So next stage, okay, this is the original window. I copied what I thought was some valuable information, the first 5 minutes of symbols populating that window this morning. So now we can see I've taken a top list and I've entitled it Trend Change Lubricant Stage 2, second stage. So if we go into Configure, there's no need to, I forgot to take these off, but we don't need any filters in there because we're just looking at our custom list. And if we go to Symbol List, we can see I'm using the Only the Following List option. All we have checked off is that top list. So now, boom, I've got a list of all the stocks that showed up in the first 5 minutes of today. So at any point in time after that, if you were watching this list here, it's very easy to sort by where that stock is in its daily range, and you're like, okay, for the most part, all of those stocks in the first 5 minutes are having phenomenal up days, because if we're buried all the way to the right here, it's close to its high or at its high. So if I, click on QCOM here, whether you traded it in the second 10 minutes, 15 minutes after, lots and lots of potential move here, or actual move. I mean, talk about a stock that actually moved today. You had 2 good legs here where you could have really capitalized, assuming you knew that QCOM was in play today. All right, and when QCOM starts exhibiting patterns like this, look how long it's been exhibiting that pattern, and now it's just closed today up above this resistance. So, maybe it gets struck down if the market goes down, maybe it doesn't. But the bottom line is it's definitely a stock that has been beat down that is starting to recover and doing it in a fierce way. And, QCOM is no small market player either. So just being able to manipulate the hot players today in a list such as this fashion, whether we want to sort it by relative volume or to make sure that we're getting stocks that are actually moving, I took the liberty of displaying this column right here. What's the range of the stock been today in dollar amount? So if we're sorting greatest to smallest here, lots of good movers here. I mean, I don't know if any of you were apprised of UTX, but after the first 15 minutes, being told about, hey, you might want to keep an eye on UTX today, and you're being told that right here. So you're like, okay, UTX is on my watch list. Then later on, you might have seen UTX hitting a new high right here. Maybe you felt like buying that little breakout right there. What is that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30? 30-minute opening range breakout right there. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to sit in it. Never comes close. If we were taking some realistic approaches to risk management, right here, somewhere right there. Never got there. And then you just happen to be in the stock that goes, not because you saw this and jumped in, which also was possible, but because you were told about it here.
Chance favors the prepared mind, right?
Exactly. So once again, I mean, one of the prettiest things I've seen all day is this, right? So UTX, little bird would have been whispering in your ear right here, hey, keep an eye on it. You played here, or whether you waited until it put a top in and went down here and you're like, okay, well, you know what? If it does pop above there, I want to be in it. And of course, everybody sees the green line here, which is in the limit alert functionality, which I'm told
so close.
is very, very, very close, very close. So you can see down here when that functionality does become available to you, UTX, boom, as soon as it, cracked that level, I would have been alerted to it here as well. Now, I would have much rather have already been in the stock, but, 2 separate opportunities to be in UTX today.
There's another one on there that I kind of like, and we looked at it earlier. I think it was AMAG, wasn't it? I wrote that one down, and I think that's
right,
on your list.
AMAG, Steve and I were talking about the stocks on this list earlier, and I'm like, well, we got to add the special sauce because why not, right? So when we sort this list by short float, look who pops up, number 1, AMAG.
Let's take a look at that daily there.
Here she is
And
looking
let's
at
zoom
the,
in. Let's
yeah.
let's zoom in a little bit and get some perspective. See, I really like that. The sideways action for 3 days there after not being able to go to a fresh low after the third attempt. These are the kind of trend change lubricants that we're looking for here. And when you throw in a short float of almost 30%, you got 30% of the shares outstanding that are scratching their head trying to figure out, is this thing done to the downside, or am I going to be trapped in waking up on a gap up 10% move? Maybe I should start covering now. And this is the footprints in the sand are showing me here that the shorts are starting to get a little bit nervous. So Jamie did add that short percent float, and when you sort that top list based on who's got the richest short float, well, again, here's one of these patterns we've been focusing on a lot lately for trend change, and this one is ripe for a possible catalyst if it gets there. Now, I want to talk about something else here real quick. You know, when you're trading, especially longer-term trading, swing trading, or even day trading too, but you don't always have to jump in to a particular size with your full share size. One of the things I've done over the years to help slow it down is longer time frames and scaling in and scaling out. And what's the difference between scaling in and averaging down? Well, it's real simple. Don't average down. If you got in your mind an account, let's say, you know, it's a $50,000 account, and you don't want to allocate more than 10% of each one of those trades in your account, so you got a $5,000 value of a trade. Well, if that equates to, say, 600 shares of a stock, you know, you want to go in and plunge in and grab 600 shares and think you got it nailed correctly, more power to you. But if the stock moves against you, and then you add another 5,000 allocation to it, another 600 shares, that's averaging down. Never want to average down. But scaling in, knowing that 600 is going to be your full load, maybe you dip your toe in the water with 300, maybe you do it with 200. And if you get a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of pullback, it wasn't quite ready yet, well, you can average in, but you're still under your normal share size that you're going to be taking on. Knowing ahead of time that you're creating a position, not just, you know, one big plunge in and plunge out, because a lot of times that, you know, can get you whipped out pretty quickly in today's market. So on a stock like today, you know, if you're going to be averaging into AMAG, you could probably put just a little bit on right here and then watch it intraday. And if I saw where, let's say, the bottom of those three candles right there, intraday, let's say intraday, no, the other three candles, yeah, right there, that little range it just built, that base camp. If I see an intraday move and I've already got a little bit on and it moves down through and back up and ran the stops, that to me is probably a signal for another opportunity to add to the position, because they just went stop hunting, and everybody that jumped in with their full share size just got stopped out. And I can't quantify and tell you how much I've seen that over the last 7 or 8 years. The stop hunting is just brutal out there, and it preys on people that jump into their full load, trying to chase the market, trying to follow the penguins off the iceberg into the water when they feel it's safe, like the analogy I gave last week, only to be reversed, dumped on. And how the hell did it just pull back that much and dump me out and stop me out? Well, it happens a lot, and one of the ways to not get caught up in that is to nibble in, get it on your radar. Once it's in your radar, you'll be amazed how quickly you focus on something you've got skin in the game. And then if you see an attempt to run the stops that was unsuccessful, well, hey, that might be the worst behind us there. I'll go ahead and go my full load here and average in. Now I've got my full allocation, and I've done it in 2 pieces, and I'm still in the game. So just think about that for some of you guys who are jumping in your full size all at once and getting stopped out too quickly and not having enough wiggle room to survive any kind of a shakeout. The next thing I wanted to mention was, if you guys are not following me, I'm going to respond to an answer, just thanks. I'm going to type in my my Twitter handle here, because doing the homework on the weekends, I found a real gem. Okay, it's @TodayTrader on Twitter, and I found a real gem, and it actually turned into be the trade of the week. So if you're on the trade of the week email this morning at 9 o'clock West Coast time, 12 o'clock East Coast, was Shake Shack. And here again is the stock that's in its lower 1/3 on its 52-week range, trying to push back up. The shorts are getting frustrated. And what do you know on this one? Where's the short float on this one? 67%. A huge number. You don't see numbers that high, but 67% of Shake Shack holders are getting a little nervous here. And what do they have to do to get out? They have to buy to cover, and that brings in more smoke and more fire of new longs that want to come in and establish a long and jump on and squeeze. So I think this is going to be continue to be one to watch, and it could be also a candidate to scale into and kind of slowly build a position if you're so inclined. There was another one, and this is a high float stock. X Steel has been getting just decimated. And this is not a small little biotech company. This is a huge industrial. X Steel, over the course, you can see, once again, basing, can't go any lower. A nice pop a few days ago, 2 days of pullback and consolidation, and then tried to go again today. So again, the shorts have got to be getting a little bit nervous on a stock like this. And these are the kind of things that you can scale into and keep them on your radar so you don't miss them. But once again, if it breaks above that, I think it's 37, I'm sorry, 870, 874, 880, somewhere around there, 880.
880, about 880.
880 is the trigger number it could be. You're going to have a contingency of shorts that are going to be a little bit nervous, and some of them might start jumping quickly. So those were a couple of quick ones I wanted to highlight. You know, the AMAG, the X, and then also if you did take the trade of the week in Shake Shack, I think there's some more movement on that one to come here soon, hopefully. All right, I just wanted to throw you off.
Hey, no, that's excellent stuff, man. So, you know, coming back to this top list window, you know, I was just kind of scrolling through the charts so that everybody could see whether they went up or down. These stocks had some significant movement to them for the most part. Of course, we're going to get a few thin ones in there from time to time, but lots of really nice patterns coming through these windows. And so that's a good time to show you the other two windows that I curtailed around the trend change lubricant. TCL base here, TCL base here. This one over here is looking at all of the stocks on that list and telling me when they're taking 25% pullbacks either from the top or the bottom. Really good time to take a look at a stock is when it's doing that. And then this one is just simple highs and lows, right? So, you know, we can see that COF was coming through towards the last part of the market, and of course I was made aware of it, you know, as it was cracking the high right here. As we can see, draw a line straight across. Once again, that was one of the limit alerts that I set right here. So you know, that previous high was penetrated. I was told about it, and guys, this is another really good example of, you know, if you're intraday, yeah, you could have milked it for a tiny bit. But really it's the pattern that's important, because this pattern can happen at any point in time in the trading day. This one just happened to have happened towards the close. But I liked it because when I look over here, number one, this is Capital One. Everybody knows who they are. And look what it's doing. Okay. Now there's air. Well, there's not really air, but it's off to the next support level because all these days have been breached. So once again, you know, once it gets above here, if it gets any traction, then it could be off to the races.
Hey, Jamie, somebody's asking about maybe clarifying what you did earlier about dragging that watch list and how you, what you did with that watch list.
Yeah, sure. So I took the original trend change lubricant top list. Now, if you notice the time block here, this is what the list looked like in the first 5 minutes of trading today. Of course, this is California time here. So on this list, there were 34 stocks in the first 5 minutes. So what I did is, leaving it in that historical mode, I right-clicked and I said Save Contents. So what it did is it saved all of those stocks onto my desktop in spreadsheet format, which this is what it looked like right here. So when I opened up that spreadsheet, you know, notice we have 35 lines, but this guy right here is not a stock, 34 stocks. So I just copy and pasted this symbol column, right click, and we just go copy, easy as pie. And then what I did next is created a custom list. And I'll just repeat that process. It's so easy. So I just created this list that is currently empty. I say edit that list, and all I have to do here is right click and paste, click OK. Now you can see for some reason there's 35 stocks in that one. I must have gotten something in there that wasn't supposed to be. But that's how easy it is to create that list. And then after we do that, as I said earlier, these windows are only watching that particular list. And the way we make the window do that is we just pop back into configure, go to the symbol list, make sure that we are on only the following list, and check that list. Now, when you first create your list, it won't show up here. So the first time you have to find that new list that you created, which there it is. And as soon as I click on it, then now it becomes checkable. So all of these windows have been pointed to that specific list, these two as well, and this one. So that now I've got an entire layout fresh for the next, and of course tomorrow I have to wait for the first 5 minutes to be up, snapshot that first 5 minutes, make a new list, point these windows to a new list. I've got a great little intraday trading setup that's going to show me some stocks with some really, really good moves in it for the next day that are coming that were originally sourced from Trend Change Lubricant. So, what we're doing is we're just taking that list and remining it, filtering it down further to try to get those little hidden gems out of there that make our life easier.
Real quickly, too, I guess, and there may be a problem with putting that cloud link for Trend Change Lubricant in the window for whatever reason, and there's also a customized filter that usually needs to be added to make that thing complete. So I think the best course of action for anybody who does want that, if they could just submit the request to info@trade-ideas.com, and then the proper configurations can be dropped into their account settings as well. Also, real quick, Jamie, there's a guy named Izzy who's been very patiently waiting on a question he asked at the beginning of the program. If you could do me a favor, Jamie, and open up 2 new single stock windows. He's telling me he's got a very basic list of it, which is just the file bar there, and 1 stock and 2 single stock windows. Now, yeah, open up a second one.
What, 2 of them? Okay.
2 of
All
them.
right.
Yep. Now, if you just type a symbol in one of those, the other one's not going to change, right? That's the question. So that one's moving to AT&T, while the other one's moving to SPY. Now go ahead and click on one of the alerts that you've got anywhere on a top list, and they're more than likely both going to sync out.
Right, these will sync out because they're linked just like the charts are.
Exactly, and that's where he's getting hung up. By typing it in one is not going to make it type into the other because you want to see the other tab. I understand what you're doing. You've got 1 tab on profile, 1 tab on single stock, but those are keying off of alert windows or top list windows where we double click down through a series set of stock symbols, and that's when they both change for you. So I'm sorry if it's not working the way you want, but that's the explanation.
Yeah, and Izzy, we could always get on the horn together and try to figure out a solution for you. Maybe there's another way to get that data that, as soon as I can allocate some bandwidth to it, meaning my brain, I'd be happy to try to find a solution or a workaround for you so we can exchange emails or whatever later on if that's okay.
All right, what next?
Yeah, what is next? Well, I think, this technique I showed today to kind of micromine an already productive top list is, I think, pretty powerful because, this allows us to refine the data, take what was good data and make it even better data. So, just want to let everybody know we'll be glad to pop this top list into your cloud. Of course, you'll still have to go through the process yourself. Now, I can also make this layout with these windows available, but just keep in mind, if you do want the layout, you're going to have the layout and this window. All right, and I could make this part of the layout as well, so we could just drop the whole layout in there. That'd probably be the easiest way to manage it, but you still have to do that first little 5-minute, mining yourself to get those symbols. But, assuming you're comfortable doing that, which, is a fairly simple process once you get the hang of it, hey, a few good trades out of that, well worth the time spent in any capacity. So I guess, Steve, I guess we can take some more questions. Probably a good time to do that.
Sure. There's always room for another how do you configure question, or even how do you like this particular stock. We're just 2 eyeballs here, but if there's a stock somebody wanted to look at, we could do that as well. But this is usually a good forum to start off talking about some ideas and some trading ideas and how to use them along with the Trade Ideas platform and look at some stock-specific charts, and we've done that. So now is a good time for group Q&A. TWOU, somebody just asked about. So I like to look at the dailies.
This guy right here?
Yeah, and look at the daily and see what we got there.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Hey, look, this is
definitely.
that slide that we saw earlier. Whee!
Yeah, what I like about that one is those last 3 days of kind of moving sideways and then drifting higher out of it. It recovered, and rather than pull back and try and retest lower prices, it just consolidated over time. There's an invisible trend line you could easily draw there from the top to the bottom, and it has broken that trend line. That does not look bad. Mr. Wiz does not look bad.
Let's do this real quick. Let's see if anything jumps out. Interestingly enough, it's 38% short float. 14 days to cover on that little guy. Interesting.
Relative strength and relative weakness is one trading philosophy in here, and wondered if there's any popular trading scans to identify relative strength and relative weakness.
Yeah, that's such a, there's a lot of different ways to paint that picture, right? What was Leon talking about? Tree today? Yeah, definitely in play. Similar type pattern. ICE was asking what does the short float mean, and that's simply take the number of shares outstanding, and this is the percentage that are actually short. So AMAG is at the top of this list, the one I compiled from the trend change lubricant. 29% of those shares are currently short, and we can always just see the regular float as well. I mean, we can see the percentage, but sometimes we just want to see, well, I could work the math backwards, but I'd rather just see, you know.
Yeah.
And so here you can see, well, this is how many shares are in the float, and out of
306 million.
27 million, and the short float is 29% of 27.2 million. So interesting stats. They can definitely spice up that long bounce play.
All right, well, while you guys think up a couple more questions, let's bring in Scott, and he can talk about some of the webinar discounts to thank people for coming in today and listening to what's going on.
Absolutely. Scott, you want to
Sure.
You want to show some pricing
Sure.
stuff?
I could also draw people's attention to their handouts panel in the GoToWebinar interface where you pull up the pricing. I can explain that. We're a software as a service company, so we have a subscription as our base model, which is $99 a month. That includes everything, including all of your data. The annual saves you a bundle, and that comes in at $888 per year. Again, both of these also include training, so as soon as you sign up, go to the support section and sign up for your preferred time for your hour of power training with Steve or Jamie. The AI, to get access to the AI and the backtesting module, that's a one-time $1,100 license. It lets you backtest the entire market and find trades that are performing right now without any programming. Now, since you can reach your handout panel and download that PDF, we're going to show you the next slide, which is a code you can use to get a discount this week. So the code you see highlighted there needs to be the same capital letters, capital Holly, Holly 24. That takes half off your first month, 20% off your first year, or 25% off the odds maker license. And that lets you go ahead and sign up. Like if you're already a subscriber to Trade Ideas and you want to add the odds maker, you can save that at a price savings. In fact, I actually believe the code gives off 30% today, so I have that unaltered. So that would be a little bonus for you.
Tricky.
Yeah, off the AI. Or do we change that? Huh. We can figure that out. Anyways, it's going to discount you. And now the next slide, we did take away the 1288 package when we took version 4 out of beta. It was just too much of a savings to offer for the version that's not in beta anymore. But you can use that same code, the Holly 24 code this week on the checkout page when you go to that link, bit.ly/capital AI Holly. And you can actually use the promo code on that checkout page now, and it will discount the total to $14.80. Let me just verify if the discount is 30% for the odds maker or 25. I believe it's 30, but real quick here, try not to bore you too much. So, survey says
Doing the calculations over there.
testing it to make sure it works. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That code works for you. Actually, it should be Holly 24 on both of those. I'll make sure those work. Just go ahead and download the PDF. It'll be fine. And we'll fix that. If you have any questions, just email info@trade-ideas.com. I might have forgotten to update a portion. But anyways, you can get savings that way. Shoot me an email if it's not working for you. I'll have that fixed momentarily. Thanks, guys.
Sure. So, Jamie, here's probably a good question to end up on here. I always like to, if we can set an example to show somebody step by step how to create, what it is they're looking for with an alert. And there's a pretty simple one here asking by David. What if we wanted to find a list of stocks making a new high of day and also a large volume increase within the last 3 minutes? Well, how would you do that, Mr. Jamie?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. First off, let's see. We could just take, for example, here's a window that everybody kind of loves, volume radar, which is just a top list showing us stocks that meet this very simple filter criteria right here. So not a lot of rocket science going on with that filter set, right? Now this top list is showing me the first 500 stocks that meet that filter requirement, those filter requirements, all right? So I can quickly sort that entire list like this, because these are all the stocks that are currently at their highs. If they're buried if it's all the way to the right, that stock is at a high. If there's a little bit of daylight, that stock is close to its high. And then I can always just look over at my small time frames here for volume. We've got a 1 minute metric. I know that's smaller than 3 minutes, but better too small in that capacity than too big. And so we could see what the level on the 1 minute volume is currently. So, these values are zeroed out right now because the market is closed. But in the market session, a reading of 100 would be normal volume. So, you'll see all these stocks that are doing, multiples above, at the close, IM was doing 4 times normal 1 minute volume, 13.54. Now that's at the close, but in the intraday, you can keep those, you can track those metrics, and it's very, very smooth, very cool way to do it.
So you can use that volume 5 minute as well, and kind of just keep an eye on both of those time frames. It's not 3, but it's 5. It's close enough. Yeah, but you've got 5 broken down into 5 different 1 minutes.
100 is normal, so if you see something at 200, it means it's doing 2 times the normal volume for either one of these time frames. 300 is 3 times normal, and so forth and so on. So that's a very simple and effective way to find that type of information. Now, we could also go the alert window route and use the new high, and then we could factor in 1 minute volume as part of our filter equation if we wanted to. So those would be my 2 go-to methodologies, but I'm sure there's even more ways to find that information. Yeah, David, so that volume radar is one that you would request because it's not part of the pre-configured strategies. So, info@trade.ideas, request that window. We'll pop it into your cloud for you.
All right, any other questions before we call it a day? Could you talk about the %B filter? I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I'm not really either. I don't believe we have anything with a, %B. I'm at a loss for that.
Sorry, Max, I'm not quite sure what %B. Are you looking at like RSI one of the RSI settings.
Right, that looks like a stochastic
Yeah.
or some other type of subset of a regular set, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
stochastics is %D, correct?
So we do have the alert for that. If we just go here. Now, was the question about one of these alerts here?
Stochastics, crossing above the 20 or the 80 threshold. I mean, that might be an indirect way to approach what it is he was looking for.
Right. So we are limited on stochastics. They only exist in these alert forms. We don't currently have any filters for stochastics. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Yeah. I didn't think they snuck anything in on me. So yeah, pretty limited as far as stochastics go. Only have those in the alert form currently.
Mr. Sazad is asking, how can I change the size of the bars and the charts? I think what you're meaning is using the control key and the mouse wheel. That allows you to zoom in and zoom out.
Right.
And that's something that you definitely want to know.
If we hold down the control key and scroll, we compress and expand. If we just scroll, we scroll, you know, over the price history, and we don't expand or contract. But if we want to expand and contract, we hold down control as we're using the mouse wheel. Yes. If you're a beginner and you signed up for Trade Ideas, then you can go to our website. And let me just show everybody how to do that real quick, just so there's no confusion here. It's real easy. So you go to our website. The easiest way is just to kind of grab the scroll bar, cruise all the way to the bottom. Of course, you might want to read some of the very interesting content along the way. But then we come down here to the bottom, and under the support area, you click on training right here. And all you do is scroll to the bottom and select your training slot. Pretty good little automated system we set up recently. Make it really easy for you guys to sign up for training sessions.
Yeah, we can spend an hour with you and based on your level of understanding, try and help you get up to speed and give you some good foundational understandings of how the platform works. What we can't do is spoon feed winning and losing trades. That ultimately comes up to you, but we can help you get in the right direction and try and find what it is exactly you're looking for.
Right. The only one spoon feeding right now is Holly, and she does it every day. So I think it's a pretty good time to let everybody get back to their day, and I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy days to attend
Thanks for the questions.
webinar. Steve and I are always honored to present to you guys. So I guess we're going to sign off now, and everybody needs to remember we've got the Wednesday webinar and a Thursday webinar coming up too, and hopefully we'll have some additional exciting stuff to share with you guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah. All right. We
Cheers.
will see some of you on Thursday or even earlier on Wednesday if you guys make the Wednesday ones with Dan and Brad. So
Happy trading, everybody.